Thank you all for joining this deep dive webinar of Zoho Contracts. So I'm Helena and I'm a content writer with Zoho. So in today's session, I'm super excited to walk you all through the product tour of Zoho Contracts. So the agenda for today's demo will be like, we'll just see why we decided to develop a contract management software, what we envision to do in this space, and then I'll quickly walk you through the product tour of Zoho Contracts. And finally, we'll conclude with a Q&A session. So throughout this course of session, if you have any questions regarding the product, please feel free to drop them in the questions tab. And so we have Arjun and Princey along with us who will help us moderate the session. So Arjun is product marketer of Zoho Contracts, and Princey handles all the marketing efforts in Middle East. So thank you, Princey, for enabling the session. So I'll quickly get started with why we decided to develop a contract management software. So, firstly, we understood that contracts are at the core of all commercial and business relationship, and we at Zoho deal with a lot of contracts for various business aspects. And over the years, we have heard a lot of problems and challenges that our customers face in managing their contracts. So, apart from these problems being a reason for CLM adoption, there are some recent factors that are driving adoption towards contract management solution. So, increasing complexities in global supply chain. So, the reason here is technology is evolving rapidly, and geopolitical tensions are causing complex supply chain environments. So, and the recent pandemic has just aggravated the situation. So, to handle such volatile environments, we need a flexible CLM model. And irrespective of the industry we are operating in, regulations are cropping up more often than ever before, and when government regulations are coming up, businesses are forced to make organization wide policy change, which in turn translates as changes in clause languages. So, this situation demands a solution that helps them to do a quick impact study and implement all these changes easily. And the third factor is that customers today have a lot of options because business landscape is being very competitive, and a lot of businesses are adopting flexible sales and pricing model. And to accommodate to that level of flexibility, we need an agile system, and risk is an important factor. So, risk is inevitable in any business. And with the recent pandemic, the emphasis on risk mitigation is at all time high. And almost all businesses have started thinking on risk mitigation. And contract management is a critical piece to solve this risk mitigation. So this last factor is with the recent trend that's happening, that is mergers and acquisitions within organizations and industries. That is when two companies come together and consolidate, but they need a forensic analysis of all their existing contracts to know how their contracts perform from a compliance standpoint and from a revenue standpoint. So this is why we decided to develop a contract management software, and we felt that this will be the right time to do so. And moving on, our vision, that is our thought process when building Zoho Contracts, was that to not to put up yet another platform that just improves legal operation efficiency, but we wanted it to be a platform that holistically addresses contract management and facilitates better business outcomes. And to achieve that, any CLM solution should contain two main aspects. That is, it should support futuristic CLM capabilities. So this is one of the aspect. And the second one is easy to access. So though the legacy softwares out there provide a lot of CLM solutions, if you just look at the adoption rate, it is still very minimal. This is because the implementation challenges are huge. It demands a learning curve for us to get them implemented internally. So we wanted Zoho Contracts to remain simple yet feature rich, and most importantly easy to access. So our approach in achieving that was to firstly streamline the entire contract lifecycle by automating whatever could be automated, and with the emphasis on risk mitigation and compliance being at all-time high, we wanted Zoho Contracts to include features that helps you to mitigate business risk and improve governance. And also with contracts routing into various business departments, including finance, legal, sales, and HR, we wanted Zoho Contracts to promote cross-functional integration as well. So as a start, we have initiated with Zoho Contracts and Zoho CRM integration. So these four aspects will be the main agenda for today's product tour. So we'll see how Zoho Contract functionally operates and accomplishes each of this aspect. And these are the stages involved in any typical contract life cycle. So, when managing the entire contract lifecycle in the absence of a CLM, businesses tend to use multiple applications. That is, they make use of a word processor to draft or author a contract document, and now to send it for contract approval or contract negotiation, they depend on an email application to send it as an attachment. And then they rely on a third party e signature software to get the contract signed and executed. And now they maintain all these metadata in spreadsheet. Now, when the volume of contract document increase, they make use of a document management software to store all their contract documents. And they take help of a calendar to meet all their deadlines. So now I'll quickly start the product tour. And even before getting started with our product tour, I would like to know, like, have you tried Zoho Contracts earlier? So Arjun, can you please run the poll? So thank you for sharing your answers. So first we'll get started with streamlining the entire contract life cycle. So I shall take individual contract as an example and show how Zoho contract helps from its authoring to its execution. So this contracts module in Zoho Contracts is a central repository that holds all your contracts in a single place and thus brings in better visibility. And with this advanced search and filter option, you'll be able to access critical contract information whenever required. And when it comes to initiating a contract life cycle with contract creation, Zoho Contract provides you with two options. That is, either you can import your existing contracts. It can be in any state, be it draft, signed and active, signed and not yet active, and even expired contracts. So you can import your contract, draft contracts or signed and active contracts, and you can manage the rest of the contract life cycle within Zoho Contracts, or you can start creating a contract right from scratch. So you can select the required contract type. So contract type in Zoho Contract doesn't just mean the contract template. It's actually a fundamental configuration that defines all primary attributes of a contract, like the intent of the contract, approval workflow of the contract. So all these primary attributes of a contract is associated with this contract type. And we have 14 contract types present already. And if you want to create any other contract type, you can create as many custom contract types as you want. Now I've selected this contract type NDA, that is non-disclosure agreement. Click on continue. So you'll be directed to a contract creation wizard, which is nothing but a new contract form. There you can fill in the details based on the agreement you are about to enter. The title, you can give a description to it. You can select your counterparty, the contact, the main primary contact of your counterparty, and you can also set the contract term. If it is a definite contract, you're going to have the effective date and the end date. It's if it's indefinite, you need not have any end date to it. So on being a definite contract, you can just include the effective date. That is when you would like the contract to become active. It can either be on a specific date or as and when you get the contract signed. That is the condition on execution. And you can also set the termination notice period. So once you're done filling in all the details and click on save and continue, so contracts will automatically generate a contract document based on the details that you have entered and the contract type template that you have already configured. Now, this particular contract document will hold all the clauses available for this particular contract type in default. And if the contract owner or the author wants to remove any particular clause or wants to add an alternative language for a particular clause, they can make use of this document editor panel where the clauses tab will display all the clauses available for this particular contract type. Now, on unselecting any particular clause, you can easily remove it from that contract document, and you can also switch between alternative languages present under each clause. So, this is an advanced document assembly feature that we have enabled in Zoho Contracts, and the ability to add multiple alternative languages for a single clause like avoids duplication of contract templates for minor tweaks. And now the contract author here will be provided with the formatting option that a full-blown word processor provides. This is because Zoho Contract is tightly integrated with Zoho Writer. And the contract author will be provided with real-time collaboration option as well. That is, you can share this contract document with your peer organization members and you can set permissions. So say it like at the time of authoring, you are unaware of any field value, you can just insert empty fields like this and you can get them filled by sharing this particular contract document with your peer organization member and assigning a permission like fill fields only. So here during that co-authoring, you can get the value filled in and complete the drafting the contract. Now, once the drafting process is done, you can mark it as draft complete. And now this contract document is ready to go for an approval process. Having an approval workflow associated with the contract type actually opens up an early opportunity for the involved stakeholders to review the contract document and stay aware of all risk and opportunity present in that. So now when you submit this particular contract document for approval, you'll be able to see that the control is automatically switched from summary to approval section, where you can contextually track, view all the activities that is being performed during this process. As you see here, you can view the approval workflow, that is, and it is a parallel approval workflow. In Zoho Contracts, you can create both parallel and sequential approval workflow. And as you see in this activity section over here, Anna Hilla and Jack Smith are the two approvers for this particular contract document. And the status is that both have not yet approved it. And if one has already approved it and the other one is yet to approve, this is how it looks. That is, here, if you see, Anna Hilla has already approved the contract document and Jack Smith is yet to approve it. So now I'll quickly switch tab to show how Jack Smith's profile looks, that how it looks for an approver. So Jack Smith as an approver here can review the contract document and can select any contract term and add contextual comments to it. They can also set visibility for that, like everyone, my organization members. So based on the requirement, can set visibility for the comments included and they can add it. And also at the time of approval, the approver will be able to add a message and approve the contract document. Now, when the contract document is approved, it is good to go for negotiation. So, traditionally, negotiation happens through mails with the contract document sent as an attachment. So, when there are the multiple cycles of negotiation happening, the problem is that it becomes really hard to track the changes that happen in each of the cycle and to compare the changes present in each document version. And so to address that, Zoho Contracts has enabled a controlled version of that contract document. That is, when you share this with your counterparty contact, you can actually protect it with a password and then send. Now, your counterparty contact will be receiving an email with the link to review the contract. And the best part here is your counterparty contacts or the negotiators need a Zoho Contracts account to review the contract document. So now on clicking this link, I'll have to enter the password to review the contract document. Now a controlled version of the contract document will open. The counterparty contact then can review the contract document and they can suggest edits. That is, they cannot make any edits directly to the contract document, but they can suggest edits by, like if they don't want this particular contract term included, they can delete it, or they can select any contract term and they can add contextual comments to it, set visibility for those comments, and add. So now, during the negotiation process, the counterparty contact can also request the contract owner to include their organization members for them to collaborate and review the contract document. Now, at the time of submission, Zoho contract provides them another option called proceed for signing. That is, when reviewing a particular contract document, if the counterparty contact feels that it is good to go for execution and it has no changes to be done, they can show their readiness by enabling this option, or else they can just confirm and send. Now, once the negotiation is over, the contract owner in parallel will receive a review summary that displays all the changes and comments that has been included during the negotiation process. So now the contract owner can either accept or reject the changes or reply and resolve to the comments that they have made. Now, as you see here, number of changes is 1, number of comments is 1, proceed with signing, signing status is no. So now, as I told, like they can accept or reject the changes that are made, reply and resolve the comments that they have included, and mark it as negotiation. Once the parties agree on all the terms and conditions present in the contract document, they can proceed with signature. And also, when there are multiple negotiation cycle happening, to keep track of all the changes that occurred in each cycle, Zoho Contract provides an option called View Previous Cycles. So, on clicking on this option, you'll be able to view all the previous cycle for this particular contract document along with the review summary and the document version that is being involved in this process. So as you see here, there have been 3 cycles and you will be able to access the document version along with the review summary. And a similar option is available for the counterparty contact as well. That is, with the help of this compare changes option, they'll be able to compare the latest version of the contract document with any of the previous cycle version. Also, they have an option to track the negotiation history of the particular contract document. And now, when the negotiation process is done and the parties agree on all terms and conditions, they can execute the contract document by sending it for signature. Now, to send it for the contract document for signature, you'll have to add signers. So, apart from adding organization representative and counterparty representative, you can add other representative as witnesses for this particular contract document. And I can also set signing order. That is the workflow in which you would like the contract document to get executed. Now, based on the signers, you have an option to edit the ending text as well. So, with this edit ending text, based on the number of signers you have included, you can insert signatory blocks even without moving the entire contract document to draft state. So, on adding signers and clicking on save and send, Zoho Contract directs you to Zoho Sign UI. This is because Zoho Contracts is tightly integrated with Zoho Sign. And here you'll be able to easily drag and drop all the required placeholders in the contract document. So for now, I'll just include the signature placeholder. So by selecting the corresponding recipient, you can just drag and drop the required placeholder. So once adding all the required placeholders and you click on the send, the signers will receive an email with the link to sign the contract document based on the workflow that you have already assigned. And now the contract document becomes active based on the contract term that we have initially filled in the form. So based on the contract term that we have already set, the contract document becomes active. And this is how Zoho Contract enables from contract authoring to execution. And Zoho Contract also supports post-contract execution management. So the unique feature that we have introduced in this part is contract letters. That is, when you amend a particular contract document and mark it as draft complete, an amendment letter will be generated. And these contract letters are available for all amendment, extensions, renewal, and termination. So in this amendment letter, the whereas clause will capture the entire history of that particular contract document. That is when the parties have entered into this product sales agreement, or if there's been any earlier amendment happened, all those earlier history activities will be present in the whereas clause. And this now therefore clause, you'll be able to find all the current changes that has happened during this amendment process. That is, this late payments in the contract is deleted, and the taxes and withholding clause in the contract document is being revised and inserted with the following contract term. So all these current changes that has been happened during this amendment process will be present in the now therefore clause, and this helps to eliminate human errors during post execution management. And moving on to the second aspect of mitigating business risk. So, though the approval workflow, contract template, and peer review do mitigate business risk, one of the most important factor for this risk causing factor is unfulfilled obligations. So to address that, Zoho Contracts has enabled a contextual obligation management section where the contract owner will be able to add all the obligations related to this particular contract document. And the obligations can be task obligations, and it could be a non-task obligation. And the task obligations could be like it could be a one-time task or a recurring task, and they can assign this obligation to respective business owner. So after adding the obligations and assigning it with obligation owner, they can track the status of obligation and they can manage them. That is based on the status. They can send reminders, they can reassign, they can view due history, and manage the entire obligations assigned and make sure that no obligation goes unfulfilled. And now I'll just quickly switch to an obligation owner profile and show how it looks. So here the obligation owner, so Jack Smith as an obligation owner can update the status of any obligation based on the progress level. So and it will get directly reflected for the contract owner in the contract document itself. And this granular level of addressing obligations helps to mitigate business risk at a greater extent. So now, moving on to the third aspect. So far we have covered the very first two aspects, that is streamlining the entire contract life cycle from authoring to execution, and then mitigating business risk with obligation management section. And the third aspect of improving governance, so we shall start it with analytical capabilities of Zoho Contracts. So in Zoho Contracts, we have 35 plus standard reports, and this activity or milestone based reports are generated from all your pending contracts that are being yet to approved, negotiated, and executed. And this performance based reports are generated based on the contract that are already executed. So this opens up an opportunity for you to gain a lot of insights from your executed contracts. That is, you can know like top contracts with long cycle time. So this helps you to revisit your strategy and figure out what's going wrong in that. And also you will be able to know like top contracts with maximum negotiation cycle. And here you'll be able to know like which particular contract document is undergoing low number of negotiation cycle, and which and you can see know like which clause is getting often redline, and you can tweak the language and address the problem accordingly, and this saves a lot of time. And this clause based report comes in very handy when the admin wants to do a quick impact study and make an organization wide policy change. That is, uh, if suppose this termination clause language is going to have an update, they'll be able to do an impact study by knowing like how many of their contracts actually make use of this clause language. And on clicking them, they'll be able to view all the contracts that are actually making use of it. They can download it, and this really helps in making bulk amendments. And there are other aspects for which Zoho Contract provides reports. And moving on, this is the personalized dashboard of Zoho Contracts, where you will be able to view all the activities across your business contracts in a single space. And if you have entered financial value for your contract document at the time of creation, it generates the total contract value. And also, it generates the gain and loss of terminated contract based on the value that financial value that you have entered. And towards the right, you'll be able to find a calendar that keeps track of all scheduled and overdue obligations. And this will help you to meet all deadlines and renew your contracts on time. So apart from these analytical capabilities, Zoho Contract also provides some governing capabilities. That is, when you check on this user module and activity section, you'll be able to view all the activities performed by this user in chronological order along with the timestamp. And activity tracking is not only present at an user level, it is present at the contract level as well. So on checking on this activity section in any contract, you'll be able to view all the activities performed for that particular contract document. And when you check this agreement history, you'll be able to find the signed copy of the contract document. So you can download it for any of your future use. And audits become extremely easy with this activity logs. That is, this admin audit logs will help you with all the activities that the admin has performed along with the meta information. And user access logs will help you with the data like who is currently using your CLM system and from where. And the download logs keep close track of all the downloads that's happening from the CLM system. So this will help you to stay accountable and at the same time to remain compliant to your regional wise regulations. And we have a special feature called data protection with which you'll be able to anonymize your counterparty contact information. So if your counterparty contact wants to anonymize their data from your CLM system, you can actually enable this data protection setting in their counterparty contact module, and all their information, personal information, will get anonymized from the system with an encrypted or value. And moving on to the fourth aspect of promoting cross-functional integration, as I told mentioned earlier, we have started with Zoho CRM and Zoho Contracts integration. So with this integration, salespeople can actually initiate new contract requests directly from their deal or potential record in Zoho CRM. So to the question like who can enable the integration, the account owner of Zoho Contracts, who is an admin in Zoho CRM, can enable this integration. And once the after installation of Zoho Contracts plugin is done from the Zoho CRM marketplace, you can configure settings. That is, you can select the counterparty type, request a department, and you can map the counterparty fields in Zoho Contracts with the related Zoho CRM fields. So by doing so, all the data that is present in your Zoho CRM gets automatically mapped to Zoho Contracts field. And when Zoho Contract automatically generates a contract document, all these value will be auto-populated to that. And this makes your job very easy. And you can also select the contract type that you often use to raise a request from Zoho CRM. So you can map the fields over here directly, and you can also assign the contract owner to whom you would like to assign this contract request to. So now after configuring all the settings and clicking on save, a request contract button will get enabled in the deal module. So on clicking this request contract button, you'll be able to directly raise a request for a contract, and it will get assigned based on the assignment rule that you have earlier set. That contract owner will receive the request for it. So now on selecting the contract type. So this contract type here are the ones that you have already selected as often or commonly used contract types. So on selecting a contract type, you'll be able to see that certain details have already filled in. This is the effect of result of mapping in the details directly from Zoho CRM to Zoho Contracts. So all you have to do is just enter the remaining fields and click on send. That's it. So now Zoho Contracts will automatically generate a contract document based on the details that you have entered here and the details that you have already mapped from Zoho CRM to contracts. So either you can directly send an email right from here, or you can download and use it later. And you'll be able to find all these generated contract documents in this attachment section here. And in the Zoho contract section, you'll be able to manage their entire life cycle. That is, as you see here, this contract, NDA contract is in negotiated state. So if you wanted to get executed and send it for signature, you can directly raise a request for send for signature. Similarly, if it is in draft state, you can send it for approval or negotiation. And you can also manage the contract which is in active state. So you can send it for amendments or post execution management. So this saves a lot of time for the salespeople to focus on other sales related tasks. So we have come to the end of the session. So I've covered all four aspects, that is streamlining the entire contract life cycle, mitigating business risk, improving governance, and the last one, promoting cross-functional integration. So I hope I was clear throughout the session. And if you have any doubts, please feel free to drop them in the questions tab.